What came first, the music or the misery?
I'm not going to make a video on the presupposition that I'm an expert on love. In fact, I might be a better indication of what not to do. The usual trajectory of my relationships involves a sharp downward turn towards the right edge of the graph with, high peaks and low valleys throughout. But in a way, I think that's what love is. Most people have this vision in their heads of perfection, that they exist as a puzzle piece and out there somewhere they fit perfectly. I think people are more like grains of sand. From a bird's eye view, they look as if there is no separation. But if you look up close, you'll find these jagged little rocks don't quite mesh together. These days, I find it's much simpler to, opt out entirely. What I do understand is relationships. I've had enough of these to fill a choir. And if the choir could sing, well, let's change the record. The coupling of two people is a frightening proposition. Men and women change their socks every day. We switch to pumpkin spice in the fall, and who we were 5 years ago may vastly differ from the person we are today. Yet knowing this, we hold ourselves accountable for what we should see as inevitable, the failure of our relationships, the utter horror of losing years of your life to a wasted endeavor, that all your secrets might be held by someone who has no investment in your success, that those arms that used to warm you at night might be warming someone else instead.
Can you see your name on that list, Laura? Maybe you'd sneak into the top 10.
In the Bible, Proverbs 11:2, it says, "When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with the humble is wisdom." And there's nothing more prideful than two people believing they'll be together forever. And there's wisdom in knowing that the status quo can change, and most of the time it's out of your control. As humans, we tend to clench our fist until our knuckles turn white. We hold on to something we let go of a long time ago because even hostility can feel preferable to loneliness. And other times, convenience can trump ambition. It's easier to waste away than to start again.
Is it better to burn out than to fade away?
Spirit of fucking broke, man.
Jesus, he was gonna.
I didn't see High Fidelity when it came out in 2000. I didn't see it until 2007 when I was working at a Blockbuster video store and going through a hard breakup. My high school sweetheart had cheated on me with her acting partner as soon as she went to college. Now, it was really the first time that I dealt with that level of emotion and disappointment. That statement would make you side against her. She's a cheater, right? What I didn't tell you is that I had cheated on her quite a few times before that even when she was trying to rekindle things, I was pulling away, and though I treated her well otherwise, I didn't yell at her or tell her she was a bad person. Emotionally, I wasn't able to be there for her the way that she needed. Sure, she met someone, she knew she was in a relationship, but she pursued one with him anyway. Yes, the night she cheated on me, she had told her mom she was with me, so she used my bed to stay the night, and we made love.
Believe me, I could do a top 5 things about it that drive me crazy, but it's just your garden variety, women, schizo stuff, and that's the kind of thing that got me here.
Life is messy, and the finer points of it can cut you so deep you might think you'll never recover. What helped was High Fidelity, and I really saw myself in Rob's character. It became the film I wouldn't share with anyone else because its poetry felt so personal. I felt as though if anyone watched it, they might know me a little too well. I think many people read a book or listen to a song or watch a movie and feel as if it was placed there at that perfect point in time just for them. High Fidelity was mine, but of course it wasn't written just for me, but for all men. Because while we are all having these singular, separate experiences, the author tapped into the realization that those experiences aren't so different, that most men hit the same milestones in life, and if we talked about it more with each other, we might realize we're not alone in our struggles.
When is this gonna stop?
Fast forward to 2017. I'm lying in bed with yet another woman, and we're watching High Fidelity. I tell her that Rob is like me and how much I identify with the character. As the credits roll, she's not as impressed with Rob as I am. The crux of her argument was that Rob is a narcissist. She saw the movie from the perspective of Laura and was adamant that his emotional unavailability led to their breakup, and even with his eventual catharsis, he was still unworthy to have Laura back at the end. In that moment, I had a sort of an epiphany, that all my relationships and their failures were my doing. And worse still, I realized I was doing the same thing with her, and surprise, surprise, we ended up breaking up about a year later. Not because she didn't like the movie, mind you, but because I knowingly did the same thing I do in every relationship, which is to keep one foot out the door. Just keep my options open.
And that's suicide. By tiny, tiny increments.
Like most films that people like, it was first a book. High Fidelity is based off the 1996 cult classic novel by the brilliant British writer Nick Hornby. I've often joked that the only useful thing England exports is artists. Who knew a long, cold childhood of eating mushy peas would be the recipe for some of the greatest storytellers and songwriters of our time? Going into depth on his battles with depression in 1992's Fever Pitch, Hornby's writing has the uncanny ability to reach into the deeper places inside and hold them up for the world to see. Kurt Vonnegut said, "Write what you know." And it's clear that this author knows quite a bit about the relationships and the quiet moments in life. It's these moments that get the spotlight in the movie. There are things we say to ourselves, but not out loud. And this is the subject matter of High Fidelity. All those messy, petty, arrogant thoughts that men have blasted up on the silver screen for all to witness. These are the inner thoughts of someone who's not the smartest man in the world, but he's certainly not the dumbest.
I mean, I've read books like Unbearable Lightness of Being and Love in the Time of Cholera, and I think I've understood them. I mean, they're about girls, right?
The plot of the film centers around Rob going through his top 5 most painful breakups in chronological order. His plan is to arrange dates with each one to surreptitiously gain insight into how those relationships failed so that he might avoid those pitfalls in the future. It doesn't take long for him to realize that he is the common denominator in each of these failures, that his all-consuming romantic indecision has actually rejected and repelled those he cared about, while some others fell out of love just due to simple fate. Finding comfort in confronting these depressive triggers, he vows to solve the puzzle of his own mind to win his estranged girlfriend back.
I am fine now!
Rob works in the record store Championship Vinyl, and the soundtrack of this film is intrinsically tied to its plot. There are reports that John Cusack had many heated conversations with the film's director, Stephen Frears, famous for the 1988 hit Dangerous Liaisons, about the music that would be included in the film, and much of the dialogue is centered around music history. And the 3 record store employees constantly compete to prove whose musical knowledge is superior. I've long held the opinion that Nick Hornby split his personality into 3 pieces and put them into a retail environment. First, you have Barry, played by Jack Black in one of his first large roles. He represents pure chaos and well-buried potential. Dick, played by the underutilized Todd Luiso, is kind, quiet, and respectful. Lastly, of course, is Rob, the sad, moping depression inside of all of us, who has everything he could want in his hands but always blows it at the most crucial moment. His friends try to help him get over Laura in their own ways, while also dealing with Rob's dark moods and random emotional outbursts. Laura, for her part, isn't in the wrong. As she explains to Rob, she's at a point where she wants to get her life together. She's college educated, now a lawyer at a prestigious law firm, while Rob is still the same person he was at 22. It's not anything Rob did to her specifically. The issue is that Laura has developed past him, and it's an obvious solution that Rob wrestles with throughout the film.
They'd feel good maybe, but you'd feel better.
I'd feel clean.
While the pair are separated, they embark on their own sexual expression, which the movie handles differently. Rob meets the local independent artist Marie DeSalle, played by the lovely Lisa Bonet, and after she visits Rob's record store, the pair go out for drinks with Barry and Dick. The entire exchange is treated as a date, a proverbial attaboy for Rob. After he takes Marie to bed, he waxes poetic about his deep understanding of relationships, momentarily forgetting he's at the tail end of a failed one. Laura has absconded with her former upstairs neighbor, a man Rob despises for his awful cooking smells, choice of music, and the rings on his fingers.
Should we leave it at that then? No.
He's not running town! Leave the country! You little bitch! Don't ever look back!
To her point, she's been living with the guy, and they were bound to get around to it sometime. And when Laura tells Rob about the coitus, we're treated to the dulcet tunes of Velvet Underground while Rob walks home in the rain and gets drunk in his apartment. This sort of emotionally indulgent storytelling is why I love this movie. It is unashamed to lean on the male perspective and highlight not only its positive, but its hypocrisies as well. While men can be honorable and strong, they can also be petty, jealous, violent little things. Like the Cherokee said, every man has 2 wolves inside him, one of peace and one of anger, and the one that grows is the one you feed.
Charlie! You fucking bitch! Let's work it out! Just open the fucking door!
I'd like to say that since 2007 my relationships have developed, skin's thicker. But no, All my romantic journeys are just a different version of that first one. In Hollywood, Rob and Laura get back together. In real life, they say they'll be friends and keep in touch, but slowly grow into an indifferent silence or get drunk one night and block the other on social media. Modern dating is quite different than the 90s. One wonders, is it worse to have the shadow of uncertainty of not seeing your ex like back then, or to instead have their post-you life multicast across the internet for all to see? Is it any wonder that in 2022, the Center for Disease Control found men were offing themselves at a rate of 4 times to women, while also making up 93% of the prison population? Or perhaps it will serve as sort of a humiliation ritual that drives men to be more careful in who they spend their time with. Whether dating in 1997, 2007, or 3007, the core themes of High Fidelity are timeless, and they break through the walls you've built and invite you to laugh at the foolishness of its main character and, by extension, yourself. If you're with someone, it helps you appreciate the little moments and the tiny dramas that led up to this moment. If you're alone, it gives you a small window into how you might have ended up that way. It's not that serious. She's gone, and that's okay. And if she comes back, maybe that can be okay too. Every one of us has been in those shoes, walking down that empty road late at night, looking up at the street lights, trying to find anyone else to blame but ourselves. The hardest part is letting go. But you will, and one day it will amaze you how much it never even happened. As always, I encourage you to put on your analytical thinking cap and give this film a watch. It's available on Paramount Plus as well as for rent or purchase on Amazon's digital marketplace.
Thanks, boss.